Hey, welcome back everyone. Tony here from Rudy's Travels. Today what I'm going to do is one of the more important modifications, and that's to install the fridge in the fridge box. In order to do that, we'll have to run a 12-volt wiring loom back from the fridge box underneath the chassis of the trailer and up into the power section. I have the power module, the Goal Zero, mounted in the galley, so we'll have to run the wire back there. The only thing I really had to get to do this, since I already have the slide, the fridge slide, and the ice cold fridge, the only thing I really had to pick up was this wiring loop from ARB, which I've used before in my Jeep when I wired up my fridge in my Jeep. And the reason I like this, in addition to giving you just about the right amount of wire, the right gauge wire, you get 20 feet of wire, pigtails, spade lugs on one end rather, to wire into, if you're going to wire to the battery directly, but I'll fix that and change it to the fuse box in the back of the trailer. But you also get this connector, which has essentially, it looks like a cigarette lighter adapter, but it's got a 2-pin connector. And I have the cable from the fridge with the 2-pin output that will, input rather, that will plug right into this. And what's nice about that is there's a threaded part that will screw in and hold it snugly. And I know a big problem that some people are having with the regular cigarette lighter or power adapter input is that the bumping along the road and all that will cause that to come loose. And you may not realize that until you open your fridge and realize it hasn't been on for a while. So this thing works great. It's from ARB. I think a couple other companies may make something similar. So anything you get that's like that, this will get mounted inside the fridge box behind the fridge. The fridge will plug into this, and we'll run the wire loom from the connector here outside the fridge box down under the chassis towards the back and back in. So let's get started. So my big decision for today is which side of the trailer to mount the fridge. It seems that most people put it on the passenger side, which probably makes a lot of sense if you're doing cooking on the table that's on the passenger side. I, however, am going to put it on the driver's side because our awning will be on the driver's side, and it'll be a lot easier to grab a cold one when I'm sitting under the awning if the fridge is on the driver's side and not have to walk all the way around to the passenger side. So I'm going to buck convention, put it on the driver's side. We'll see how that works out. And then the other side of the fridge box, I'm going to have some storage area for some larger things, maybe some extra clothes, things like that. All right, so to begin with, we have to build a raised rail platform so that the fridge slide can clear the lip. There's a front lip of about an inch and a quarter from the bottom of the fridge box. So I think the easiest thing is use a couple of 2x4 pieces I had laying around. I think those are about 2 feet long. Seems to be the right size for the fridge slide. So what I'm going to do is paint them black so they blend in, and then screw them in from underneath. Drill a couple of holes underneath the fridge box. A couple of wood screws will hold it in place. Should be no problem. Okay, so the first step after I painted the wooden supports to go inside is to place them. I've got them about a couple inches off of the either of the side walls, which seems about the right spot for the slide I'm using. I am using an IceCo slide that mates with the JP40 IceCo fridge that I already have. So all I'm going to do now is just come up from underneath with a few of these kind of screws, come up underneath, RTV it, seal it off, although it's underneath, so I'm not too worried about water leakage or anything like that from the underside. I'll put probably 4 or 6 bolts, 2 or 3 on each side, get that secured, and put the slide in after that. Now that the supporting platforms have been bolted in quite securely from underneath, just simply placing the fridge slide on top, centered in the opening, and bolted 4 or 6 times to the access holes there, and a couple in the back, and that should be all set to go. Okay, fridge slides bolted securely to the platform. Slides that nice, slides back, locks into place. Check the clearance of the handle. Now just put the fridge on, strap it down, and do the wiring. And now the fridge is installed on the slide. It comes out. There's the IceCo. Locks in, opens up, down. Again, sorry for the short camera angle. Can't get much space in here in perspective, but that's all set now for the wiring. the loom that I showed you before. I'm going to wire that back to the power station in the rear of the trailer. Okay, I just wanted to show you quickly what I was talking about before about the 2-pin connector sliding into and threading into this ARB connector. So this is the cable that comes with the fridge. Now, it also had another piece that would screw on that would plug into a regular cigarette lighter type of an outlet. But again, that becomes a problem when it loosens up. So with this particular cable, we're able to unscrew that part, and we have the 2-pin threaded connector here. And as you can see, there's a 2-pin outlet right there. So this simply, it's keyed. There's a key right here and the mating key there. So that just gets plugged in during use. That'll get plugged in like that, pushed in, and then this threaded part will tighten up. Okay, and this will be connected to the side wall of the fridge box with the wiring coming out. So in any event, that's snug. That is not going to come out. So people who are having problems with connections bouncing around, you may want to replace that with this type of a connector. It really works very well. Okay, so I think it's a good enough spot for the coupler, or the connector rather, that's going to go onto the side wall of the fridge box. Should be right about here. Plenty of clearance from the back of the fridge, from the wire when it slides in and out, and shouldn't interfere with won't interfere with the fridge at all. It shouldn't interfere with anything I put inside here. I'm going to leave it with the threaded part up. It'll make it easier to disconnect when the time comes. I guess I could do it this way as well, but I think this way would be the easiest way. I'm not worried about water. Water's not going to come in and leak into there. If it does, then I have bigger problems. So that'll go right about there. It's just a couple of self-tapping screws I'll put in the side, but at first I'll have to draw the wire through the through the wall there, and snake the loom through, connect it up, and then wire it through. Okay, so I started with a pilot hole in the spot where I needed to drill a 5/8 inch hole in this thick sheet metal. So I use this stepwise drill bit, which I have. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but the thing works great. You start a little hole, you start there, you just push through until you get the right size that you need. Turns out I needed about a 5/8 inch hole for this grommet that I'm putting in there, and that snapped right in. So I'm going to feed the wire through there and then start snaking that back towards the rear. So the kit provides us with two, see if I can find a loose one here. Two of these connectors here, these right angle connectors that need to get crimped and soldered onto the bare ends of the wire, and then plugged into these terminals here in the socket. Red to positive, of course, and black to negative. So I've stripped it down. I clipped off, actually, so I don't need this, the fused end with the battery lug terminal, since I'm not connecting it directly to a car battery. And I'm going to connect it to the fuse box in the back of the trailer, the hiker trailer, and that will be fused there. So I'm just using the bare ends. So I've snaked most of the wire through, and now it's time to finish up these connectors here. So this can get a little tricky, I guess. So I'm just going to take out my my soldering iron, which is about, 40 years old, I think, but just generates heat, really. I'm going to try to get some hot solder flowing through there without a cold joint. And then we'll slip that through the housing and onto the terminals here, put it all together, slide the wire through, and cross our fingers. All right, I was able to slide the plastic insulating boot over each of the terminals. Took a little wiggling to get them over. Perhaps I should have slid them over the wire first and pulled them back. But in any event, they are flexible enough to come over. But they're important to make sure you have a good insulation between the two contacts, especially on a vehicle like this where you're going to be bumping all around. So having those through there, the next step is to thread them through the hole here, as so, and then connect up. Let's see. No, I think we need this threaded insert first. This is what's going to hold this piece against the housing. So this will come in here. This goes here. This goes through that. This will connect again. We want to make sure we have positive is red and negative is black. So there's our negative. Positive is right here, and here's the red terminal. Otherwise you'll blow stuff up. Always triple check that connection. So that looks pretty good. So that's what the connection should look like. Again, I'm checking again. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, probably not, but it's red to positive and black to negative. So next step is to basically just insert this in here. There's a little dust cap grommet there that'll hold that in place. This will stick out like that and go through the hole in the back of the wall of the fridge box that I drilled. So now we just have to tighten this one up so it's snug against the housing. So this looks good, hopefully. This looks good. Let's put the dust cap back in place. And now we just have to snake the remaining wire through the grommet. And it's really the kind of grommet where once it goes through, it's hard to pull back the other way. So we want to do all this work before we did that. There's not much play inside either. Basically, we'll just be snug up against like that. So if I ever have to pull that out, I'll try to leave a little bit of slack on the other side, but I don't think there'll be too much. So now we're just gonna take a couple of self-tapping screws through the holes here, and this part's all done. All right, we've got the housing secured to the side of the fridge box. The wiring seems to be in pretty good shape. Hopefully it is, so I don't have to take it apart and figure it out later. Plug is inserted, the 2-pin connector, and now I'm just gonna thread it and lock it in. Very simply, there it goes, and that is not gonna come out during transit. That is solid. And it looks like that's a good amount of play for the fridge fully extended. And let's take a look and see how it comes back. When I put the fridge back in, hopefully it won't catch on anything. Should be fine. That looks pretty good. Yep, there we go. Now we just have to wire it to the battery and fuse terminal. All right, so we're back outside the fridge box, and there's a small gap of about 1.5 inches right here. Well, actually right here between the fridge box wall and the wall of the cabin over here. So that runs down into the middle. So right down in here, I'm not going to be able to show you with any light at all, but the wire that is running, that's going to run back to the power station in the back of the trailer. Anyway, that wire, I've fed it through the grommet, pulled it through, left about 6 to 8 inches of slack coiled up in between the space here, between the, down below, between the fridge box and the wall here. So if I do have to do any kind of repairs on the connector inside, I have a little slack to pull it out, do whatever I have to do and push it back in without having to rewire the whole underside of the trailer. So I'm going to go back down below now and try to pick up where it came out. Okay, I'm underneath, facing upwards. So I'm on a creeper crawler thing here, underneath the chassis of the trailer, facing up. So hopefully you can get a perspective on that. You can see a little light coming in through space that's created between, let's see over here, the back of the front panel of the chassis right here, the back of the fridge box here. And in any event, this is the wire that I snaked through, and I have it covered with flex tubing now, which you can get at any hardware store, Amazon or whatever, Home Depot. And that's the same stuff that Hiker Trail is using on. As you can see, there's some wires they have over here on their wiring underneath. So it's a good way to protect your wires from the elements underneath the chassis. So basically, I'm just going to snake it over, run it over to the side, and run it towards the back, towards the galley where the power station is. So I've actually over here, you can see I used a zip tie to tie this wire to an existing hiker trailer wiring loom over here, and just followed it along. See if I can squeeze under here. Boy, it's a good thing I got the 2-inch lift on this XL, because I wouldn't fit under the chassis without lifting it. It runs through under this crossbar here on the tongue, and it's right over here. I'm not even sure which is which. I think this is the one I just added. And that comes around over here. Again, it's tied in with some zip ties with the hiker trailer wiring, and goes down towards the back, which you can see is back there. So I'll try to pick it up. It's going through here. I snaked it out under this crossbar, tied it all together and made it neat. This way it's all protected and safe and secure. Now the wiring comes up along the side here. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. Yeah, there it is.
and all the way up here past the water inlet for the water tank. And I think we're right over here. So then what I did over here is to drill a hole sufficient to accommodate the wiring loom. And that hole leads up into the floorboard of the back galley, which is where I will snake it up through to meet the fuse box, which is on the second shelf area of the galley on the side, the 12-volt fuse box, and that's where we have to hook up the wiring so it picks up power from the 12-volt distribution point. Okay, so here on the bottom floor in the galley, we're in the galley now. You can see there's the water inlet for the water tank. Right here is where I drilled the hole through to bring the fridge wire in to the back, and I put a grommet there to keep it nice and sealed up nicely. And then it's kind of hard to pick up, but that is basically snaked up through up to the second shelf, and it's run along here and here. I split the ground wire and the positive wire into two and ran a flex tubing around both of them just to keep it nice and pretty. And this is the fuse box that Hiker Trailer supplies. So basically it's a 12-volt fuse box. These two are already installed. This one is for general electronics and this one is for the water pump. So we ran 1, 2, 3, 4 extra slots, which is nice for extra wiring. I might put some more lights in a different location at a different time. The positive for the fridge wire is crimped into a spade lug and then screwed down on to this side on the positive side. And the ground wire similarly is crimped into a spade lug and screwed down onto the ground side over here. A 15 amp fuse provided by ARB in the wiring room, and that little fuse holder that we cut off. So we're just reusing the same fuse that they would have used, they would recommend you use, putting it right in here, because without that you won't get any power through. So that's now fused properly, and for now we're going to just cover up put the cover back on the fuse box right here. I've already got the label for refrigerators, so I know which one is which, and I just have to thread these nuts right onto it. And the wiring is complete, and the job is all done.